thank you for joining us, Nadine. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. I really want to start with asking you a little bit about your journey today, because we know that women in the fintech space are outnumbered, um, and they still are, and we don't know how long for. But for you to have carved your way out in the fintech world, I think long before there were many or numbers of women in the fintech space, I think you did a great job of it. And so I want to learn a little bit more about your journey. Share with the audience, what led you to the fintech world and starting up Suraya, and what inspiration can they draw from?
So my journey was a bit unusual because I am what you might call multidisciplinary. So I worked in different industries and in different countries, and I have 2 degrees, one in business and finance, but I also actually went and got a second degree, which is in fashion and pattern making. So not your
Wow.
typical journey into financial technology.
Fantastic.
But the reality is, career-wise, life takes you into different journeys, and I developed my skills through that journey specifically. And how I ended up in financial technology specifically is throughout my career, my last part was focusing on, business building and growth. And I was talking to my co-founders at Sarwa, so Mark, Shahwan, and Jad Sayer, and we were discussing the idea of what do people in our community do to invest. And Mark really wanted to bring a service that can help the community here really build their wealth. And we started talking, and a year later we realized that it is something that we want to work on and we want to launch. And that's how I actually started with Sarwa.
Fantastic. And tell me a little bit more about Suraya. So anybody who's hearing this that doesn't know about it, because we've got an audience from all over, what pain point or problem does Suraya solve for those who are seeking financial or able to make financial investments and make them well informed? Tell us more about how Suraya does that. What problem did you solve that made Suraya so successful?
Well, we can start with the name itself, right? So Sarwa, which in Arabic means wealth, really summarizes what the mission behind the company is, which is, the idea of democratizing investing. So we're financial technology, we're a wealth management company that, whether it's a platform, app, and website, where you can just go in, and we made onboarding is very easy, and you can just, open the app, answer a few questions, and then you can open an account and start investing. We have automated investing, and then we have a do-it-yourself investing. And we are regulated by the FSRA in the ADGM.
Wow, brilliant. And how many clients have you serviced to date since founding Suraya?
I want to say a growing base that keeps growing exponentially. We have around...
Fantastic.
Sarwa's community keeps growing exponentially, and it's been an amazing journey, because when we started under the umbrella of regulation, you can only onboard a few clients, but that was the learning curve, and today we have thousands of clients on the platform.
Brilliant. And of those, do you know how many are women?
That's a very good question, and the reality is it's not very different than any of the global platforms. And that speaks to, the consumer behavior and psyche of investors generally. I mean, I would love to see that number growing. And I know you've been doing also your part in terms of bringing more women into investing.
Yes, I ask because we see obviously the trends and we see the stats, and the stats still show that the women numbers, whilst perhaps have increased a little bit globally, they're still not where they should be in terms of an ideal world, or in terms of there being more equality in the technology and then specifically the financial space for women. So it's always really interesting to see, what are the stats, what does the data show? That was more I'm curious.
Like what's
there's
broader
still,
in terms of...
So in terms of broader, but even globally, there's still a very huge disparity between men and women in technology, but even more so in the financial tech space.
Very true.
And so the gap needs to close. And part of why we have this Women in Tech and why we do Female Angels with the 2022, and part of why I do a lot of advocacy is that women, unless they're participating and unless they're involved and unless they're investing, those numbers are not going to increase and they're going to rise. Now, the only way you're going to get those to increase and rise is obviously looking at what are the barriers to entry.
Yes.
So let's have a look at that. What are the barriers to entry in your view to women in technology, but women in the fintech space specifically, given that that's your expertise?
So if we want to talk about women in investing, right, with just bringing more women to invest and to work towards their financial independence, which is very key and very important, because then it offers you choices in life.
Absolutely.
Right? But you asked me what's the percentage. Generally, it stays within, I would say, 15 to 20%, right? And that number, we would all of us love to see it increase.
Correct.
In terms of women coming and investing their hard-earned money. And investing it the smart way, right?
Absolutely.
Because you can.
After all, it's about getting a return. So
Absolutely.
any investment is about the return on the investment.
Absolutely. And that path towards becoming, more financially independent. So in terms of women in finance and women in technology, I think, as we were talking before, we need to see more women coming into that field, into all fields. Generally, the reality is if we want to think about STEM generally in terms of education, the base is amazing, right? I believe we are in the region at 50%.
Right.
Now, if we go beyond and look into what happens post-university and the workplace and the workforce, that number starts
to reduce. Absolutely, yeah.
Many different reasons, whether it's, how societies are built, how our community is built, but also choices beyond that. And then slowly you start realizing that beyond even the workforce, so we have entry levels, but the higher you go in seniority, the smaller that number becomes. And that percentage keeps shrinking up until leadership. And we see less and less and less women. So there's a lot of reasons why that happens.
But what do you see as the main challenges? Or perhaps draw on your experience if there were any challenges that you faced?
The challenges can be, by the way, turned into opportunities, right? And how we want to look into them. But the reality is there is a level of unconscious bias happening, because at the level of hiring itself, most of the filtering that happens and the interviews is done by men. And the reality is, psychology tells us that we are comfortable with people that we resonate with. Correct. So you end up also hiring more male into tech, because a lot of the interviewees that are doing the interview are also more men than women. So there's that first layer already. And then beyond that, promotion gap, right? So you also go into that where less and less women are being promoted for similar reasons, but also, the career gap that women by choice sometimes take because they want to build a family. So that also impacts, how we advance in a career. And then the whole thing keeps cascading. In terms of leadership, that's why we keep seeing less and less women going up that ladder.
So are you saying it's more by personal choice about women designing their careers and what that looks like, that we see a drop off as you move the seniority rank? And not so much the challenges that they face within the organizations. And I'm curious to know, so whatever that is, this is a personal opinion. It's both.
This we can take really multiple episodes to discuss. But the reality is, we're not going to frame everyone in the same box. There is data that shows that this happens in a work environment due mainly, whether it's conscious or unconscious, but to a certain bias.
Right.
Choices, yes, absolutely, but this is not the biggest percentage of why this happens.
Correct.
Now, how do we change that?
That's right.
There are different ways we can actually improve these numbers and look into having a more balanced,
organization or pool of male and female candidates for specific roles in technology.
Perspective, so we're starting with university and more, education. There's, by the way, a lot of very amazing studies that have been done out there. And for example, one of them is the importance of representation, right? Going to young girls, showing them what's possible. Even something as simple as having, pictures in a classroom of what a future career could look like, whether it's,
Right.
a scientist, a doctor, someone in tech. So all of these representation impact the choices of young girls in their
In their
future.
future. I like that. That's a really good one. I
I,
don't
I
think
have I
anybody's
have I
mentioned.
have a daughter,
You
so
have,
so
yes.
I look
So
into
you
these
yes,
so often,
absolutely.
and it's fascinating.
No, I like that. I think that's a really good suggestion, and it's interesting because it's simple but so effective and so easy to implement. So it doesn't need money. It doesn't really need resources. It
No,
really just needs to.
no.
It's a teacher taking a minute out of her time to literally, print, I guess, an image of a woman who's renowned or successful in whatever she's doing, and
Yes,
stick it on a wall for a
yes.
young girl that might be aspiring in that field. So
The power of visualization
visualization,
and role
yeah.
modeling, right? That's very key and very important.
And I like that idea because it's the idea of starting early and starting young. But what about people that have missed that boat in terms of starting early and are now later in their career, but still aspire to be somebody like yourself or anyone else that they think has done, amazing in the tech space, but they're facing these challenges, not by choice, but by representation or by unconscious bias. The challenges that we don't choose, but we have to overcome and turn into an opportunity. What's your advice to those ladies?
Find your little village, find your community, right? Look into the workspace that you're in and find, women, whether women or men, by the way, that can support you grow, that can support your path, and you have, allies across, right? In my career, personally, I've had both. People who helped me progress into and moving up the ladder in terms of promotions and so on. So you need to just identify who you feel can be your support, can be your community. So build that community around you. I know it's not easy, and it can be by itself a challenge, but if you're able to do that, then that's one of the things you can do.
Absolutely.
Speak your value. I think women, we tend to, and again, not to generalize, but this is something, I don't know if you can call it a syndrome, but the tiara syndrome that they refer to, which is, we work hard and we do everything, and then we expect others to recognize our hard work.
Right.
While, typically your male counterpart would be actually saying, this is what I've done and I'm so proud, right? So just speak your value, say what you're working on, say what you've done, talk about your achievement.
Celebrate
proud.
yourself,
celebrate
almost.
yourself,
Yeah, don't
right?
wait for others to celebrate you. It's fine to
Absolutely.
celebrate yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And keep reminding yourself you are there for a reason. You do bring a lot of value, and you bring also a different perspective, right? You open a new market by virtue of being who you are. That's very important.
I really like that idea, and I agree with that idea, but sometimes I think to challenge that idea, and the only reason is this. Speaking about our value only, in my opinion, gets us so far. Whereas when you show others or add value to them, at that point they can't deny you. So whether they like you, don't like you, think you're speaking your truth or not, there might be unconscious bias there that we can't, you can't
Work
deal
around.
with. So you might still be going around and saying, look, I'm great at what I do, but the other person just doesn't want to, for whatever reason, deal with you. However, if you're great at what you do, and you add value to that person so much so that whether he likes you or whatever his views are or, wants are, he needs you rather than just wants you. And then that addition of value now puts you in a much more powerful position.
Both.
Do you
need
agree with
both,
that? You
right?
need both.
You
Okay.
need both, because the reality is sometimes that can be taken for granted anyways, right? This is an expectation. Now, that said, this is from a view of, working within that setup. From a view of a leadership, it's the role of leadership to actually create that culture
Right.
of first a team culture, right? So if I was to go back to Serwa, one of the things we are very proud of is the fact that we have an incredible team where everyone really has a sense of ownership and everyone supports each other, right? Now, that's not going to happen 100% all the time, but that has to be a culture within an organization to start with, and it starts at leadership and it cascades down.
So true.
So you need to have that spirit of collaboration, of growth mindset that goes at a team level, because we all grow together, right? So you have to bring that mindset of we are working together for the bigger, impact.
Impact,
And
yeah,
you
I
keep pushing
understand.
on that.
Yeah.
You still need, so you need both. You need first, in any job that you do, I'm a big believer, do it with, the best intentions and put the best effort. And I tell this to my kids, right?
Yes.
And I'm pretty sure a lot of, if there are moms listening there, they would, it would resonate is whatever you're working on, did you do your best?
Yeah.
And the result is super important, but did you do your best first?
Right.
To me, it goes hand in hand, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I do. I see what you're saying. So essentially, you're saying that addition of value is going to happen, but I guess you can't even add value to anyone or get them to see it unless you speak of your value. So it's the confidence to even speak up and have the courage to say, this is what I can do, this is how I'm going to do it, and this is how I'm going to add the value, and then you're given the opportunity to then do it. But if you don't speak up, you're never even going to get to that.
But it's not like you're
second
doing it
place.
all the time and you're
Yeah.
there, but just don't stay
Naturally,
in the shadow,
yes.
right? Like don't stay and expect people to recognize because you're doing the hard work.
Yes.
Just make sure that you understand that, again, you add value wherever you are. You are there by virtue. You were chosen for whatever role you're in because you do add
Perfect
that
point.
value.
Yeah. Excellent. No, that's really good. I actually did a podcast on that once myself as well. Is about you're already in that place because somebody recognized you have the value. Now own it. Own it.
And always
deliver
get better,
with it.
right?
Get better, of course. Self-improvement. I mean, that's lifelong.
Yes.
And I think if you're somebody who's got great work ethics and you're a team leader and you're somebody who really wants to excel and be in that top 10% of leadership or your organization, lifelong, learning is always going to be happening for you. Yeah. So I'd love for us to go into the conversation of scaling in technology companies because technology is an asset these days, and you're only going to return though on this technology or an asset if it's scalable, if it's if you can go from one market to another market and expand and have more clients, and then obviously have more data. Data's now the new oil, as we know, so it's like, what are you collecting and how we're collecting, and then how you can monetize the data and everything else that comes with technology. And so you've obviously been in Suraya and you've been scaling Suraya. Talk to me about the challenges of scaling in technology, and if there are any women out there who are doing that now and facing this, again, what should they be keeping in mind when it comes to scaling technology?
I would say a few things. One of the challenges of scaling is, do you lose sight of why you're building why you're building what you're building, right?
Love it.
And I think it's very important to keep anchoring in the vision that you had in the beginning. That said, it doesn't mean you don't adapt. Actually, to me, adaptability and consistency, they go hand in hand. They don't fight, right? But mission or vision, or what you want to call it, when you started the company, is the why you build it. Adaptability is how you get to that path, right? And sometimes you take different routes, but you're getting to that North Star. So it remains a North Star for you.
Yes.
And you keep having to remind yourself, but also everyone around you, your team, about like why you started the company. And to me, it did really kind of help us as we scale, especially navigating all the challenges and any uncertainty that you face, which you will face a lot,
no
right?
doubt. Yeah, that's it.
So any business, any entrepreneurship, anything you go through will be a roller coaster. There's going to be the ups and the downs, and it's about just keep that mindset of, okay, whatever we face, there's a solution for it. How can we get to the other side, right? And thinking in solution mode, right? You hear a lot about the growth mindset, which is really,
right.
It boils down to that, is anything that is thrown your way, let's sit, analyze, look into how we can solve it. Scaling is also one of the challenges, because when you start a company, you're starting with it could be just you and your co-founder, or if you don't have a co-founder, sometimes it's only you from the beginning,
Right.
and then, or a tiny, teeny team. and you're used to doing a lot of things. You're wearing so many hats, from admin to legal to accounting to operation to customer support. You know, even with Sarwa, we used to rotate, and we made them fun. It's call night, and we just stay up and start like calling client, making sure that we go through the list of pipelines once we started growing. That, when you're scaling, becomes also a challenge, because you need to move from being a doer to becoming more of a manager and a leader. So how do you actually go from that to that? And then how do you get the right people? Because the culture is ingrained in the founding team. So how do you make sure that that goes beyond? How do you create that environment of empowerment when you become all of a sudden too many? Right. So that's an interesting kind of stepping stone and milestone into a growth of a scale up.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I love that. And so how would you, if you had to say, give us 3 sort of gold nuggets when you are transitioning from a startup to a scale up, if we call it that. And you said, as you said, the culture changes and you have to go from doing now to managing into leading. So what are maybe the 3 key things that you would do in that transition period from doing to leading?
So I would go back to anchoring in the vision, and that could be something as simple as, having really clear onboarding structure and processes. So I'm a big believer in corporate governance, and that doesn't mean that everything has to be, very kind of structured, but at least have the basic of where to go back to when there are questions being raised. And so when you're scaling and you start hiring, for example, that onboarding process of bringing new people, but ensuring that they understand, the company culture and the brand values, this is very key. This is very key, because your teams, your employees are your best ambassadors, right? And I'm a big believer in happy employees, productive employees, right? So you have to go back to that. So that's a starting point. Empowerment. Make sure they have the right tools to do their day-to-day with a sense of ownership. And make sure that you give regular feedback and not wait for one specific time where, there are performance reviews. No, it has to be an ongoing conversation. So you help them really kind of grow and identify the strength and build on that within your team members. Sometimes you'd hire a person in one vertical and then you realize, wow, actually they're so good at this. If they're happy, great, but would they want to rotate? And that's fine,
So really adjusting and adapting to the strengths of the employees rather than always having them adapt to adjust to the company's needs. Okay.
And sometimes, Suraya, technical skills are as important as the soft skills.
Yeah.
And sometimes some people that don't necessarily have strong technical skills, but they bring so much to the team, are also key members.
Absolutely. Now, I want to take it back to the women in tech conversation, because you're looking at, hiring, and you look at, these employees, and you're looking at how they might need to adjust and adapt, and how, the company does adjust and adapt to those as well. What do you see from your experience, particularly with hiring in Sadwa? One, were there many female employees who were either technically, qualified, or that had superb, emotional intelligence skills that you hired them for? Or if you didn't see so many, why didn't you see as many as you would have expected?
We saw a lot.
Yeah, tell me more.
What
did you see?
I'm very proud of.
Fantastic! Good. So good news then.
Look, the reality is, yes, it's a smaller pool, but the pool is out there, right? If you want to hire talent, you will find them.
Particularly the female cohort, you're saying, the female pool.
Absolutely.
So you don't think there's a shortage of talent out there?
I think it's growing.
Okay.
I think there's more work to be done there, for sure. We just need to make sure also ultimately to give them a supportive environment that recognizes the challenges that come with that, right? But
in saying that, do you feel like they need to be treated differently or given different opportunities or create more opportunities for them, or should they be doing that for themselves?
They
these
should
women,
definitely
'cause
be doing that for
for
themselves.
themselves. All right. That's what I want to know. What should women? Because some women will be out there saying, "I've got the skills. I know I've got the skills. I'm speaking my, about my experience. I'm not. I don't have the tiara syndrome at all. But there are really just no opportunities out there, and I want them. How do I get them?" And what you're really saying is, create them. If you can't find them, create them.
I mean, look, I believe there are opportunities out there, but the
Okay.
reality is, again, I wouldn't discount the unconscious bias that happens, right?
Right.
So there is that. This is what data, at least, and we're very data-driven people. We're tech people, so
Right.
that's what data shows you. And I would listen to data.
Yeah,
If your Harvard review and your BCG and all of these like studies that have been done tell you that there is this data point, then yes, it exists. Now, that said, you need to learn how to navigate that.
Right.
You definitely create your own opportunities, for sure. But also, we have a responsibility to remove or work towards removing that unconscious bias. In
As
some
in- as
places,
an
it is
employer,
very
you mean?
conscious, right?
Yeah.
It is done on purpose in some places, but that I would say is a
Right.
minority. But as an
Yes.
employer, it is our role to make sure that we can discuss it, we can talk about it, there are trainings in place, you can just highlight it, and things very simple. And my husband and I, we talk about this a lot. He has also his own company. And initially, he wasn't seeing issues until he started recognizing patterns, and then he started seeing that there is a pattern happening out there. So once you recognize that it is something that can be addressed, then we also create better opportunities. And with Sarwa specifically, we were conscious about this, and
Great.
we will keep improving as we go, and we will keep learning as we go. But we were very proud that we do have around 50%, especially at a management
That's
level.
brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Yes. Okay. Wow.
Now,
Impressive.
I'll tell you, in the tech vertical specifically, right, so you have all different departments. Tech is one of the most challenging one to grow in terms of number of women in that department. But we'll keep working on that for sure.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that with us. I'm mindful of time, so I want to just get a few more questions in there in terms of what the future of tech looks like, and in particular, the future of tech with the introduction of AI within the tech space. So it's growing, at a rate, I think, as fast as a light of speed of light. What's your outlook on the future of tech with this introduction of AI?
fascinating, isn't
It
it?
is. It is very much so.
We started by saying, AI is a tool to empower employees, and I still believe absolutely it is a tool to empower. That said, it will replace certain jobs, but there will be other job creations.
Correct.
But interesting fact is, when you have kids, you also start getting that direct insight into that future, because at a school level now you have all the coaching and you have all the fairs about what the future of jobs look like, and there's more and more emphasis on soft skills, which I find very interesting, right? Because technical skills are becoming easy to tap into,
Right.
but then so what's the angle? Where do we get that next generation into? So I think
That's so
it's
interesting.
going to
So
keep
it's almost
changing very
like
quickly.
so it's almost like, even though we're heading into a world that's more driven by tech, what we need is a world that's more skilled in emotional intelligence, communication, and other soft skills, leadership, management, working with people, conflict resolution,
Yes,
almost,
yes.
because the technical is going to be taken care of by the technical, almost
But
like
you will need
AI
to
is going
know
to be,
it, right?
yeah,
You will
yeah.
need to know
So it's
it,
being
that's the
aware
thing.
of it, but then bringing
Yes.
in soft skills with it.
You have
That's a
very,
good.
very specialized people in very specialized fields, but I do at least, there's a long debate on this, but I do see that being on the table is a new kind of importance given
Yeah.
to these other skills.
So interesting. And I think I'd have to actually agree with you on that. I mean, soft skills have always been important, right? Because
Yes.
it's all about human interaction, how we interact with one another. But so interestingly, with this, advent of AI and it taking over, it's now more important than ever to be really nurturing, finessing, developing soft skills. So
Yes.
I really
Yes.
like that point. I think that's a key takeaway. And I think that's great because women, if we go back to women, generally, these soft skills are actually much easier for them to develop. Would you agree?
It
I mean,
is part of
it's
how we
almost like
were.
they have a
Yes.
baseline of emotional intelligence, It's in our brain almost to be nurturers, to be carers,
There
to
is
be
the nature and the nurture,
the
right?
nature
So
and
there's
nurture,
both.
yeah. But I mean, our starting point, whilst there might be technical challenges that might be more difficult for us, there might be leadership challenges because of unconscious bias, there might be challenges in different areas. When it comes to soft skills, we've almost got a competitive advantage.
We just need to recognize that.
Exactly, celebrate that more. Excellent, excellent. No, I love that. And just some closing thoughts, if you'd love to share to anybody who's listening, anybody who's aspiring to move into the tech space, or anyone already in it, aspiring to do more and to be more, and knowing what the challenges are, but knowing that challenges can be turned into opportunities. What are some of your final thoughts and
I'm optimistic.
advice?
I am optimistic, and I think I'd love to see and keep an eye on all the amazing success stories we will hear in the future, specifically from women founders that we will see entering into the space. And I think it's an exciting time now. We just need to be more stubborn about what we
Yes.
want.
Okay. Yeah.
If there's something that you believe you want to do, and look, of course, you're going to have the basics in place, whether it's your business plan, whether it's to make sure that there is actually a need in the market. But
Right.
if you believe that there's a project you want to work on, then I would really encourage you to just do it and be stubborn about it and persevere, and you'll get there.
And you get there and build that tribe, build that community, as you said.
Support system,
Support.
absolutely.
And that community and tribe should be both men and women. This
Yes.
isn't just about having women be your, allies and your supporters and your great cheerleaders. It's about men just as importantly as well, because they do add value. We've got to give them credit.
Of course.
I mean, you said some of your credit is owed to the work of your male alliances, and I think it's important
there's no
to know.
official title
Yes.
of mentors, but I've had amazing mentors throughout, and even
Who
my
have championed
husband
you in your career. Lovely.
Yeah, you need that, and in any situation, bringing different perspective is enriching by itself. Whether it's bringing more women to the table or any other minority in a workplace, if that's the market you want to cater to, you need to bring that into the table. You need to bring these different views, and that's a smart business decision, anyways.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd have to agree with that. Yeah. Amazing. And if we can close with one word that you feel can sum up
Okay.
the future of women in tech,
Oh wow.
or a line. One word might be difficult, but when you just think of the future of women in tech, what word comes to mind?
I think that's the future of the industry.
Okay.
Again, to keep it very, very simple, 50% of the market, we need the people on the other side working to cater to that 50% of the market. It cannot be one voice.
Yeah.
We need the other voice on the table.
So for you, it's about bringing more diversity into the industry,
100%.
into the tech industry.
We use all the tech, right? We
Right.
are consumers of all the tech. So
Yes.
why not have that side of the building be from whoever is talking to us, be also from one of us,
Yeah.
You need that common understanding. And again, if we want to look into data, there was an interesting exercise where there was a product being worked on in terms of visual representation, and they wanted to make sure that they represent their market in a balanced way. So the visuals were men and women, and then they ran it by the team, and the team looked and they said there's over-representation of women in the visuals.
Oh, wow.
But then,
Okay.
interesting enough, when they did the count, literally the count of how many women versus how many men,
Right.
it was actually 30% that were women. So just that
Oh,
perspective
wow.
of we are not used to, and that's in fintech specifically.
Fintech.
So the fact that we're not used to seeing women
That
being
many
represented
women.
even if it's actually less than your 50%, which is what your market is, you have 50% women, 50% men.
Right.
So if we want more women in fintech, more women investing, then you need to at least start showing representation of your segment, so they see that relevance towards that market that you're catering to.
But that's such a powerful takeaway from that image, that although there were less women, they saw it as being
It's too
more
much.
women. But just simply because they're not used to it.
Because we're not used
So they've
to
got
it.
to start getting used to it.
I don't know if you've heard me telling this story before, but there's someone in my community we're sitting who's a doctor, so she's a woman doctor. And her daughter is used to seeing her mom with her friends, and they're all women doctors.
Right.
And then she had a colleague, a male colleague, coming one day, and the little girl goes to her mom and is looking at him very weirdly. And then she goes and she asks her mom, she's like, "Can men be doctors?"
Oh, that's so
And
cute.
that is such an incredible,
says a
just the power
lot.
of representation.
Yes,
That's the
yeah.
power of representation.
Oh, and that's such a beautiful story. Thank you so much for sharing, because that is spot on about the power of representation. And I think with that we can close. Thank you so much, Nadine.
It's my pleasure.
For joining us. Thank you so much for your insight, the powerful storytelling, and honestly, anyone who's going to be listening to this, I think there's a lot of takeaways there for them. So thank you so much for joining us. And
Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
You're very welcome. Very welcome. It's a pleasure. Thank you.